Broadcasting from 88.3 FM WXUT, this is Autumn on Air. It's currently 6:30 a.m. on October 9th. It will be quite sunny today with a high of 68 and a low of 42, with temperatures ranging in the high 60s for the remainder of the week. Thank you for tuning into your morning newscast. I'm Autumn Vasquez.
And I'm Autumn Cerniak. The conflict between Israel and Lebanon has escalated further as Israel continues to make military incursions into southern Lebanon, according to Reuters. The IDF has been conducting, quote, limited, localized, and targeted operations in southwest Lebanon. This move has brought more international criticism as the bombardment has killed over 1,100 people and has displaced upwards of 1 million Lebanese civilians. There's also concerns for groups like the World Food Program who have raised their concerns over the thousands of hectares of cropland that has been burned or straight up abandoned. There are also concerns over UN peacekeepers stationed in the border region between Lebanon and Israel, as Israel has requested UN peacekeepers to evacuate the region. One example of this is an Irish outpost in the region. Post 6-52 is manned by a single Irish platoon who are responsible for observing the border region and noting any incursions. Just earlier this week, Israel suffered heavy casualties fighting Lebanese forces just 2 kilometers away from the outpost. Jeremy Lawrence of the UN Rights Office has commented, quote, we are seeing the same patterns that we saw in Gaza, and, quote, the devastation is beyond belief for all people in Lebanon as it is in Gaza. We cannot let this happen again. France has joined the growing trend amongst European nations to put an arms embargo on weapons to and from Israel. In France particularly, current French President Emmanuel Macron is facing criticism both from in his own party and from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Though overall Israel isn't too concerned as a majority of their military aid stems from the U.S., but as military shipments have slowed, there's growing concern in Israel. All of this comes at 1 year after the initial attack on October 7th, as the current death toll sits at around 42,612 Palestinians and 1,139 Israelis. The growing concern is that the scope of the conflict is increasing, and especially as Israel has shown interest in Lebanon, which has led many to be concerned over stability in the region. As the people of Appalachia are still recovering from the devastation Hurricane Helene left behind, which has currently reached a death toll of around 230 people, Hurricane Milton, a Category 5 hurricane, is expected to make landfall in the Tampa region today at 1 p.m. Milton was the third simultaneous hurricane seen in the Atlantic Ocean in the month of September. Milton's growth has been described as, quote, explosive, as the tropical storm rapidly surged to become a Category 5 hurricane just off the coast. And according to Kevin Guthrie, the executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management, quote, we are preparing for the largest evacuation that we have seen most likely since 2017 with Hurricane Irma. Currently, Florida has mobilized as many as 4,000 National Guard troops to clear debris left by Helene and to hopefully help prepare for incoming Milton. Governor DeSantis has additionally returned any Floridian crews helping with relief in Appalachia to hopefully help reinforce the battered state. National Guard troops have set up base in Tropicana Field in the St. Petersburg area of Florida. Governor DeSantis additionally added all available state assets are being marshaled into removing debris. FEMA is also helping to prepare for Milton after misinformation from the members of the Republican Party and former President Trump have damaged the reputation of the government agency. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell have defended herself against the claims with, quote, this kind of rhetoric is not helpful for people, and it's a real shame we're putting politics ahead of helping people. Additionally, federal assistance for survivors has surpassed $137 million in a week since Helene has made landfall, and is expected to rise further, according to FEMA. An organization known as the Cajun Navy are a volunteer ad hoc sort of group of private boat owners and the like who have been assisting in disaster relief since Katrina and have been assisting in getting supplies to the people in the aftermath of Helene and likely will assist in the aftermath of Milton. They're currently taking donations to help fund supplies and the like, and donations can be directed through their website at www.CajunNavyRelief, one word, .com/donate. That's www.CajunNavyRelief, one word again, .com/donate. The Supreme Court is back in session and expected to hear some incredibly high-profile cases, like Garland v. Vanderstock, a court case over how much power the federal government has in regulating quote-unquote ghost guns or other such homemade firearms, and Glossip v. Oklahoma, as the Republican state attorney agreed that Richard Glossip did not have a fair trial. And the hearing is expected to be, quote, something of a referendum on the death penalty, according to the New Republic. And next week, the court is expected to hear cases like San Francisco v. EPA, a case regarding the EPA's ability to issue permits and the like. If the case is overturned, it is expected to harm the strength of the Clean Water Act further. And later in the term, they're also expected to hear United States versus Skermeti, a case originating from Tennessee and Kentucky regarding how much capacity states have in limiting access to medical treatment for minors with gender dysphoria. The overturning of cases like Roe v. Wade and Chevron v. Natural Resources Defense Council have led a lot of Americans to have a growing concern towards the court, as trust in the court amongst liberals and Democrats has dropped to 24%, compared to almost 60% in the 90s. There is great concern amongst legal experts that no matter the outcome of the coming election, the Supreme Court won't change. And there are even calls from people like Georgetown law professor Brad Snyder, who has called this an issue of, quote, judicial supremacy back in 2022. One case the court has refused to hear originates from a Maryland county's decision that, quote, sellers of firearms or ammunition must display and distribute literature aimed at reducing gun violence, according to USA Today. The law passed in 2022 by Anne Arundel County. The law was drafted in response to a mass shooting in 2018 at a newspaper office in the state capital. According to the county, the law, quote, which requires commercial actors to warn about the risks posed by a potentially dangerous product they sell, is no different than any other disclosures ubiquitous in American life. Gun dealers and gun rights groups have challenged the law, citing violation of their First Amendment right, and that they don't want to distribute the pamphlets because they disagree that access to firearms is a risk factor to suicide. This is in addition to the attorneys saying in the filing that they also object as they feel the law suggests people shouldn't buy guns because they cause suicide. The county had specifically selected a pamphlet co-authored by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is a trade organization of the firearms industry, to try to minimize bias. The law was upheld by a district court judge and by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge Paul Niemeyer commented, quote, we conclude that the pamphlet is simply and no more a public health and safety advisory that does not discourage the purchase or ownership of guns. Last week, we covered the dock workers authorizing their strike, and in record time, on Thursday of this same week, the bosses caved and met the dock workers' demands in giving them a 62% pay increase over the next 6 years. This has come as a surprise to almost everyone. The workers had faced criticism from both sides of the aisle as right-wing outlets like the New York Post and Wall Street Journal demonized the workers, calling them greedy and the like, and many more liberal folk fretted over the economic impacts of the strike, and many calling the Biden administration to force them back to work. Many of these articles had criticized the workers, citing the fact that some dock workers were making six-figure salaries. These articles conveniently focused on the top earners, ignoring the fact that on average, dock workers make about $60,000 annually, with some workers making as little as $20 an hour, which by union standards is very low, and is the same wage as most fast food workers in California. Their raise is well-deserved when considering how crucial their jobs are and the long, hard labor they perform daily. In a recent interview, Saturday, Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance has confirmed that former President Trump is, quote, consistent in his views to defund Planned Parenthood. Vance had confirmed this with, quote, on the question of defunding Planned Parenthood, look, our view is we don't think that taxpayers should fund late-term abortions. In response, Jenny Lawson, executive director of the Planned Parenthood Votes, the organization's super political action committee, had said in a statement that a Trump administration move to defund the group would rob millions of Americans across the country of vital, affordable care. Lawson then followed this up with, quote, here's the truth, federal funds cannot be used to provide abortion care at any point in pregnancy. But Planned Parenthood health centers do use federal funds to provide cancer screenings, birth control, STI testing and treatment, and many other essential reproductive health care services. Defunding Planned Parenthood would only deepen and expand the public health crisis we're already in thanks to Donald Trump, causing more people to suffer and die for lack of basic reproductive care. For almost a decade now, Sweden has been seen as a haven of acceptance and liberalism somewhat. However, recently the country's center-right coalition has taken a more restrictive stance on immigration. Back in 2014, Sweden took in over 81,000 asylum seekers, with 163,000 more coming in 2015. Where in November of that year, in a now infamous speech, the Swedish Prime Minister had broken down during a press conference saying, Quote, "It pains me that Sweden is no longer capable of receiving asylum seekers at the level we do today. We simply cannot do any more." Since then, Sweden's immigration policy has been continually tightening, and especially now under the more nationalist party, there have been several initiatives to reduce undocumented or irregular immigration. These have included far stricter asylum legislation, tougher rules on family members joining immigrants already in Sweden, and offering financial incentive for repatriation or deportation. About 2.1 or 20% of Sweden's population is foreign-born and from more war-torn places like Syria, Iraq, Iran, Somalia, and Afghanistan, to name a few. Stockholm has made no secret of these overhauls and have stated that they are looking to greatly reduce the number of low-skilled laborers and have implemented a new law that only gives work permits to immigrants that earn a monthly salary of at least 80% of the median salary in Sweden. The median salary being about 35,600 kroner, or about 3,500 USD. However, they had also noted in this law that certain positions, like those of domestic care workers, were excluded from these new requirements. Trade unionists have expressed concern over these policies and that they would create labor shortages, and human rights organizations are saying that these measures are leading to further marginalization amongst these already vulnerable people. Chef Alton Brown is planning to soon hang up a spatula, so to speak, as his farewell tour, Alton Brown Live, Last Bite, is kicking off this February, as the 62-year-old cooking star announced in an interview with People magazine. He said, quote, "This will be my last big road show." Brown was famous for combining educational culinary content with science and bringing it to the big screen. Brown reassured his fans that though he keeps many of the details of his shows well kept, he reassured fans with saying the show will be, quote, "the same format, and that this last show will be a, quote, very large, very unusual culinary demonstration." Brown also promised that his usual campy pop culture puns and historical lessons will still be present, as Brown will also be releasing his 10th book, Food for Thought, which will be a collection of essays and the like. This will also be released in February. Brown cited his reasoning for leaving being, quote, "I'm 62, and I've always said that the secret to being a good guest at a cocktail party is knowing when to leave, and it may be time for me to leave." He had also noted, "After the tour, I'll take a break, maybe, and disappear for a little while, and see if the world misses me. If it doesn't, oh well, I have had a good run." Brown has stated that he doesn't plan to retire necessarily. I do think that, especially for people in media, that there's a time to shut up and be still for a moment and reassess. I'm not so desperate to be in the public eye that I feel I've just got to be doing something. I could just go off someplace and make a small batch brandy or something.
Thank you, Autumn, for that national news coverage. On to Toledo's news now. Voter registration closed earlier this week, and early in-person and mailed voting opened in anticipation for the upcoming presidential election. Early in-person voting for the general election takes place at the Lucas County Shared Services Building, located at 3737 West Sylvania Avenue in Toledo. Visit the Civic Center section of the Toledo Library website for more information about early voting times, dates, and candidates. Toledo's Top Talent, a local talent competition, is hosting their post-competition award ceremony on Thursday, October 10th at Taylor Hyundai Perrysburg, located at 12681 Eckel Junction Road at 6 p.m. To RSVP for the event, please contact Melinda Sanchez at 419-514-9108. Again, that phone number is 419-514-9108. The Lucas County Commissioner debate is scheduled for October 17th at the main library. The library is located at 325 North Michigan Street, and there will be two separate debates taking place on the same day. For the first debate, Commissioner Pete Gerken and Tom Wineski will debate at 5:45 p.m., and Commissioner Anita Lopez and John Rozick will debate at 7 p.m. In addition to the debate, an expo starts at 5 p.m., where attendees can review the Lucas County issues appearing on the ballot this year. Culture Clash, formerly known as Boogie Records, is a beloved music staple in Toledo. The record and music shop is facing challenges in their 20th year, including moving cost, decreased sales in the past year, and property taxes, amongst others. According to a social media post by Culture Clash. The community can help the store by doing things such as buying records and Culture Clash t-shirts, attending store events, and making donations through the store's GoFundMe page, which is available on their Facebook. Culture Clash owner Tim Friedman said in a video, quote, "The future of Culture Clash has ignited a fire in me for years, and I still believe we are and will be a hub in Toledo's community for live music, unique events, and the arts," end quote. A shooting in East Toledo injured a 30-year-old victim early yesterday morning at a house party. The shooting was at the Weiler Homes on Sequel Court near East Broadway around 2 a.m. Toledo police reported the 30-year-old victim was found with a single gunshot wound in the back. The victim is reported to have non-life-threatening injuries, but anyone with any information is urged to call Crime Stoppers at 419-255-1111. Again, that phone number for Crime Stoppers is 419-255-1111. Calls can be made anonymously, and for anyone who calls in, they may be eligible for a cash reward. On to campus news. The University of Toledo's Office of the Dean of Students sent in an email Monday, quote, "U-Toledo is committed to remaining among the safest universities in Ohio and providing each student with a welcoming and inclusive college experience," end quote. The email, written by Vice Provost and Dean of Students Dr. Sammy Spann and Associate Vice President for Public Safety and Chief of Police Rodney J. Tice, urges students to utilize safety resources on campus, including the University of Toledo Police Department. It is suggested that students provide an updated phone number to their MyUT accounts to receive UT Alert text messages, as well as download a few safety apps. These apps include Rave Guardian, an app that features a panic button, which will automatically contact authorities in any emergency situation. Another app to look into is Stress Busters, a free mental health smartphone app promoting mental health and wellness. The Center for Advocacy and Student Experience, as well as the Counseling Center, are also two primary resources for Rockets on campus. There are a few events happening this week for students. Later today, Wednesday, October 9th, at 3 to 5 p.m., the Office of Student Engagement, in partnership with the Center for Advocacy and Student Experience, as well as Rocket Dining, is hosting a commuter cooking course. This monthly event teaches students how to cook up a quick and simple meal, and it's open to all students, but it is aimed particularly for the support of commuter students on campus. And also, due to the capacity, the events are limited to 15 people per month, so make sure you secure your spot on InvoNet and look out in the future for the other monthly events. On Thursday, October 10th, from 12 p.m. noon to 1:30 p.m., the College of Graduate Studies is holding their third installment of the Graduate Writing Workshop Series. This is taking place at the Writing Center, which is located in the basement of Carlson Library. This workshop will feature tools on writing effective literature reviews, how to locate sources, how to cite them, and also writing strategies for graduate work. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, the Global Latinx Student Union on campus is hosting a Family Feud-themed game night on Thursday, October 10th in Student Union Room 2500 from 6:30 to 7:30. The organization is also hosting a Dia de los Muertos event with the Multicultural Greek Council on Monday, November 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Student Union Ingman Room, Room 2583. The Office of Undergraduate Research and Competitive Fellowships is calling for abstracts for the annual U-Toledo Undergraduate Research and Creative Activity Exhibition. The event, co-hosted by the Office of Undergraduate Research in the Carlson Library, is on December 2nd, and it will span through December 6th in the concourse of the Carlson Library, where students will have the opportunity to display and discuss their undergraduate student research from the past year. All abstracts can be sent to the Office of Undergraduate Research and Competitive Fellowships. And that's it for the show.
Man, kind of a rough week for news, I'll be honest.
It has been a slow week for news, but make sure you tune in to Autumn on Air every Wednesday from 6:30 to 7 a.m. To get weekly updates on national news, community news, as well as campus news.
Thank you for tuning in to Autumn on Air on 88.3 WXUT.
I'm Autumn Vasquez.
And I'm Autumn Cerniak.